The first step of dressing your hoop is to actually load the fabric into your hoop. So take your hoop and separate it into two pieces. You just unscrew the closure, then you can pull them apart and pop the inner hoop on the surface in front of you. Then pop your fabric on top, in the middle's great, and then grab your outer hoop. You might just need to unscrew it a little bit more and then pop it over the top of the inner hoop so that it's actually sandwiching the fabric inside. Now tighten up your closure a bit more again. You'll feel it get a bit firm, and then go around the hoop and just gently pull the fabric away towards the back. And as you're doing this, you're tightening the fabric in your hoop. Once you've been right around and it looks pretty tight, give your closure another tighten. The next step is to make sure our fabric is nice and tight in the hoop and great for stitching on. As you can see here, I've got my fabric loaded in the hoop, and you might think, cool, I'll move on to the next step. But actually what I want you to do is just pause and have a think. Is it tight enough? And the way that I check this is I'm going to press my hand against the center, and I can quite easily push down and touch the tabletop beneath. So to me, that's a signal I know it's not quite tight enough. And see how it's actually becoming visibly loose as I do that? So let's just take a moment to tighten it up a bit more, and you'll thank me later because it's so much more enjoyable and it's easier to stitch on lovely taut fabric. So grab your hoop, go around the outside and give it a really good tug. So tug the fabric right towards the back, right around the circumference of your hoop. And then just go and give your hoop's closure another tighten. We want to lock in what we just did. Try again. That's actually feeling pretty good now, but I think it needs another go. What I'm going to do is I'll do a tighten around half, and then I'll tighten this closure a bit more. Then I'll do the other half. I'm giving it quite a bit of pressure now. Okay, and then I'm going to do one more. I'm pulling quite tight around the closure there. If you have a screwdriver, you can use that too. Okay, and just make sure the hoop's nice and flush with the fabric. And then let's have another go. Oh, yep. If I push with the same pressure as before, I'm actually not touching the tabletop below anymore. So I know that that's really awesome tension. Just one quick thing I want to say before we move on is that if you were stitching on something precious or delicate or something like clothing, you might not want to get your hoop quite so tight because it can leave a bit of what we call hoop burn, or like a mark in your fabric where it's tightened up. So that's just something to bear in mind. But when you're working on a pattern like this in a hoop that's being framed in a hoop, this kind of tension is really good. The final step of dressing our hoops is to trim the excess fabric. Because if you left your fabric like this, it might by mistake get caught up in your stitches underneath. So grab a sharp pair of scissors and go around and trim the fabric into a circular shape with an overlap of around about just over an inch works well. It doesn't need to be exact, and I've done this many times so I can easily do it visually, but around about between an inch and an inch and a half, I think, is a good amount to work with. So you can discard that extra fabric, and look, your hoop is dressed and ready to go.